This episode is brought to you by Feedback Now, the world's best real-time feedback platform, and by the Experience Strategy Collaboratives. Welcome to the Experience Strategy Podcast with Joe Pine, author of The Experience Economy and so many other best-selling books on the topic. Dave Norton, an experience futurist and founder of Stone Mantle, the Experience Strategy Company, and me, Aransas Savas, an expert in coaching, motivation, and behavior change. Each week, we bring you a trending story from the news and share our hot takes. This week, we're talking about Kate King's recent Wall Street Journal article from July 14, 2025, titled, "Can the French Reinvent America's Broken Department Store Model?" You'll hear our votes in a minute, but a quick word on the article itself so that we're all on the same page. So the article covers a retail experiment happening in my neck of the woods in Manhattan's financial district with Printemps, the iconic French department store, opening their first U.S. flagship and betting that the traditional American department store model is fundamentally broken. So while U.S. department stores have seen sales plummet 69% since their 1999 peak, when my friends and I were hanging out at Hot Topic, with over 1,000 locations closing since 2016, European department stores are actually, imagine this, thriving. The difference, the experience economy. They've reimagined retail as an all-day destination experience. Printemps, New York is more like a luxury Parisian apartment by design than a Macy's. So it's small, just 55,000 square feet, half the size of a standard retail department store, but they've packed with so many different exciting services, including an espresso cafe under a circus tent, 3 restaurants, a champagne bar, spa services, art installations. And their CEO, for all of us, this is our favorite line in the whole article. He calls it an apartment store, not a department store. So we're going to talk more about that in just a second. But the European playbook is fairly simple and straightforward. Give people reasons to stay beyond shopping. Thinking about things like haircuts, massages, immersive theater, sit-down dining. A McKinsey consultant said a department store in Europe is a place where you can spend the whole day. That's what we're really talking about here, reasons to linger. So the question is whether American shoppers trained on efficiency and convenience will embrace the slower, more experiential approach to retail. So far, things are looking good with lines out the door. So, guys, I know this article made all of our hearts skip a tiny beat. Joe, I want to start with you since this is really the realization of so much of what you've been talking about for decades. And Dave, I know you too have big thoughts on this one. But Joe, kick us off.
Well, I just want to note that at 55,000 square feet, it's almost as big as Monica and Rachel's apartment in Friends. Almost.
Good one.
There actually was 10, 15 years ago, when I say that now, that means it's probably 15, 20, but there actually was a store in Manhattan called The Apartment that was in an actual very big apartment where basically everything you sat on or looked at had a price tag, so I love that idea that it's not a department store. And so what's the difference? Well, stores are very compartmentalized, right? They're here, there, and so forth. But apartment stores are more liminal as you're going through spaces, and there's more of a flow to it. I think that's very important. But fundamentally, what they're doing is that they are creating an experience, right? It's not just about the merchandise. It's not just about what they have for sale. It's about time. Right? It's having all these experiences, all the ones that you mentioned, Aransas, that get people to spend time in the place. And basic fact of the experience economy is that the more time you spend someplace, the more likely you're to buy, and the more you're likely to spend in that place. So you get people to spend time with all these immersive experiences that they have, and then that ideally showcase what they have for sale, put them on stage, so to speak, as opposed to on a rack, and then the chances that people buy go way up.
Absolutely. And when you talk about probably the best proxy for this in the US right now, Italy,
Yeah.
you talk about how it represents the entire economic progression. So commodity goods, services, experiences, and transformation. And it seems like they've really played on all of that. I don't see necessarily mention of the commodities, but one would assume
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
something.
and yeah. I don't know about what I'm trying to think. What would a department apartment store have on commodities? Unless you.
My thought on that, and I got kind of excited about it actually, is like Mary Mecco and other designers sell really high end fabrics. And so, like upholstery fabrics. And I actually think Fit Findings could be a beautiful addition for them.
Or they could sell mood rocks. There's a
And you
commodity.
you'd put it on your finger, Dave, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Mood rocks. Yeah, right. What I find really interesting about this, I think there's a lot of good stuff that's happening in Europe. And Europe has been a place where the experience economy has meant something different, and where experiences have meant something different. And they point to that in the article. So that's a place where, Net Promoter Score wasn't kind of like the most important thing that people were talking about for the last 10 years. Not at all. They were all about time well spent. And ironically, we're in a place now where you go into a Dillard's, you go into a Macy's,
I
it doesn't
don't, but
matter where you go, you feel like you're in the exact same store.
yeah.
And if you want that particular experience, there's Walmart. I mean, you can go to Walmart and get that particular experience. I think most people don't have a reason to actually go into a particular store anymore. And when we talk to retailers about this, they think that it's about rebranding, making the end caps better, about staging the product a little bit more. And that's not really what we're talking about. What I think is really interesting is the number of services, the number of experiences, and a few transformations. Like, I mean, Joe, you'll have to tell me, does a haircut count as a transformation, or is that a transformative
It
experience?
might.
If someone was able to
Certainly,
provide enough hair on you to be able to cut it, that would be a transformation. But
certainly the
otherwise,
right
I don't. It's a change
personal
in state.
shopping
It's not a change in
experience.
identity.
Yeah,
Sorry.
personal shopping experience could be
Yeah.
transformative. Yeah, yeah,
Um, and some of the best retailers have made that their business.
yeah. My wife and I were in Aspen yesterday, and my favorite thing to do is to go to the Ralph Lauren store in Aspen. It is the best display I've ever seen of Americana. You can walk through
Mm.
it and you can see everything from, um, paperboy hats to cowboy boots to and everything is beautifully done, and you just want to hang out there as long as you possibly can.
That's the key
Uh,
phrase. Want to hang out, right?
yeah,
That's a key
Yes.
phrase, right?
Well,
For the experience,
that's
you want to hang out there. That's the only
when
way
you
you're
yeah,
going
were
to spend all day.
talking,
You want to
Dave,
hang out.
about Europe. I was thinking back to when we were in Porto in Portugal last year, and we went to La Varia Lelo. I don't actually know how you say that,
The
so
Varia Leo.
sure.
I've been there and I talk about it all the time. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. A
It's
bookstore
the
that
only
charges
time
you.
I've waited outside in the rain and cold to go to a bookstore. We know how much clutter there is in experience data and how hard it is to pinpoint the real issues. That's why we're so excited to introduce you to our strategic partner, Feedback Now, the world's best company for real-time feedback. You've heard us talk about contextual insights and understanding customer situations. Well, that's exactly what Feedback Now does. They process over 130 million customer opinions each year in over 50,000 unique locations around the world. Companies who employ Feedback Now, see an average increase in satisfaction of 15% in just 6 weeks, my friends. Feedback Now is the choice for real-time sentiment data collection for some of the world's best airports, retailers, and hospital systems. Why? Because they don't just capture immediate customer sentiment. They help you see the patterns in your data. No amount of AI can compensate for not having real customers giving you real-time insights into your experience. That's what Feedback Now, with a little assistance from Stone Mantle, does. And friends, I am happy to announce that Feedback Now and Stone Mantle's Insights teams are giving away a free pilot program to one lucky listening company. All you have to do is go to their website, which we've listed in the show notes, share your idea for a real-time data project that you wish someone would help you with. The crack team at Stone Mantle and Feedback Now will review all of those entries for the one with the highest potential to produce the most interesting and profitable results and select one winner, which we'll announce right here on the show. But
Wow.
you use the word staging, or you talked about staging the product, right? And Joe was talking meanwhile about like staging the experience. And I think that's really the fundamental divide, right? Most of these merchandisers are thinking about staging product as a merchandising aspect instead of the European model here that we're talking about, which is staging the experience and creating that felt sense like you had in Aspen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked about Aspen in the last session as well, because it is a town that has been built around an experience. So you can do it at the town level. You can do it at any kind of level, at the retail level, and so on. Yeah, I think we're part of the reason why there are so many companies that are struggling right now to generate consumer demand is because they followed the recommendations made by the large consulting companies about what made for a compelling experience. And
it's like they were trying to compete with Amazon.
Right. Yeah.
Which ain't gonna happen, friends.
Right. That's a great point. So Walmart needed to compete with Amazon, and they've done a great job.
Great.
That's a particular type of an experience. But when you're talking about a department store, it used to be, if you go back to, what was the name of the store in Chicago? Well, there was Dayton's in
Marshall.
Marshall
Dayton,
Fields.
Yeah.
Marshall Fields was a day excursion. I mean, like, you went to the different departments, you talked to people, and some people are going to say, well, there's no value proposition for that anymore. And I think they're wrong. I think there's no value proposition for stacks and stacks of T-shirts.
Look at our discussion on Heels, a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Which is only sports, although it has different departments within it. But people spend all afternoon there, and I know some people are spending basically all day there because there is so much to do, so much to see, not just so much to buy, which there's a ton to buy.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I actually think in the U.S. and in New York specifically, Nordstrom is doing a great job with this, and their sales show it. That store is such an inspiring experience. Or even if you look at like North Park Mall in Dallas, where the art and the architecture and the experiential elements give you so many more reasons to visit this store. That is a mall that is growing and thriving. And P.S., it was the first indoor mall in America. So it is the oldest and, in my opinion, still the best. But it's because they have innovated and evolved. And like when I go to Texas, I go to North Park because I'm excited to be in that space again. I'm excited to experience some of the experiential installations, but it's also just the feel and the art and the energy that they have maintained in there.
Some people
And
may
there's an Italy.
yeah, some people may not know, Aransas, that though you hail from New York, you were actually a Texas girl at heart, named for a town in Texas, and
This is the truth.
born and raised in Texas. Yeah,
Indeed. And when I say Texas things, I probably start talking in a Texas accent. And everybody's like,
right.
oh, now I'm
Yeah.
innocent.
So kudos to Printemps. How do you say it? Did I say it right?
Printemps, I don't know. That's what YouTube
Printemps.
told me to say.
Yeah. Kudos to Printemps. We'll see if they can make even more forays into the U.S. market. This is a first attempt, and the counter argument could be that they're just barely getting started. It's hard to know whether or not they're really going to be successful. But I think they're headed in the right direction, and I think people are very much interested. I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, I'm going to go to a retail location so that I can have an experience. Even if I don't buy there, I'm going to buy online from that retailer. That still counts. That's not cheating. That's how we have to make things happen today.
Well, to your point, and this has come up a lot in this show, I think a lot of the reasons companies back away when they start to experiment with things like the experiential model is because they keep the same KPIs and they're like, well, we're not selling enough to demonstrate the benefit on the bottom line. But those who take a holistic view and create a new set of metrics for themselves based on the goals in the space that are taking into account the effect on their online sales, their brand partnerships, the revenue from the restaurants, right? Like the brand halo, all of that, and look at it holistically and create a new set of success metrics. I think those companies end up staying in the game and growing.
So let's talk about those metrics for a second. That I think there are three primary metrics that you need to switch to when you start staging experiences inside your places. And these days, whenever I say three metrics, I usually go, here's one, here's two, and I go, but hopefully I'll remember all three of them. But number one, of course, is time well spent, right? And Dave and Stone Mantle have worked on great ways to measure time well spent and the value of that on people versus like I feel like I go to a Walmart and it's time wasted, not just time well saved. I mean, it should be time, but I just feel like, there's better things I can be do. I only ever go there if my wife is there. Like, do you really need me? Can I be do something else? But and most retail services are providing that time well saved. But here at Printemps is time well spent is what they're providing. And people value that in and of itself. And Dave, I liked your example that, okay, I may not buy it here, I may buy it online, but then I want to go to the site as sort of a reward for the time that they gave me, right? Which gets into the third one that I'll mention. But before that, the second one is the increase in revenue, right? How much are they buying of all the other stuff because of spending more time in the place? And it's hard to do A/B testing when you come here and figure that out. But there are ways to be able to get at that as well, including using ethnographic research and surveys and that sort of thing. And then third is actually charging for those experiences, charging for the restaurant, charging for the cafe, charging an admission fee for the immersive experiences that Printemps has on the highest floor in the place, and let them do the job of marketing, right? That they're what I call marketing experiences. They're generating demand for all of the physical goods that they have in that place by creating and surrounding them and immersing them within an experience. And so it is what I call a marketing experience, generating that. But if you do it right, if you are able to charge these, then what you're doing is you're turning marketing from a cost center into a profit center. Mm-hmm. They are making money in and of itself. And I can give you scores, hundreds of examples. And let's go back to Varia Leo for a second, right? So this is a bookstore that is so beautiful. It is, and you know that from experience. It's surprising when I got there how small it was relative to like what it looked like in the pictures. But it's so beautiful. It's got this wonderful staircase in it. that allegedly inspired J.K. Rowling, who lived in Porto when she wrote the first Harry Potter book, right, with the Hogwarts staircase. And it's so beautiful that people for years crowded into it and didn't buy anything, right? They just came in to take selfies or to take pictures of the place. And finally, before the pandemic, they started this admission fee process. Originally, the first person told me about it was €3. Second person told me about it was €5. The next person told me about it was €8, right? Because you keep raising the prices in order to chase away demand. Mm-hmm. And they did, and started with a physical kiosk across the street. Then they went to QR code, digital. And they, and another brilliant thing they did is that if you pay an admission, guess what? Half of you, I think it's all of the admission.
Yeah, it's a rebate.
Right, you get a rebate if you buy one of their own books. The other books that are other publishers, their publisher first, they don't offer that rebate on. And what they found is they went from their actually number of visitors went up when they started charging admission. It got as high as 1.2 million, I think, when I was there last year. Their sales went way up. Literally from 100,000 to millions. Went up like over an order of magnitude. Their sales went up when they charged people to come into the store, right? And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And they actually have sort of like seatings where you got times when you can come in order to spread it out during that time. And so it's just amazing what creating that great experience does and what it does again for your sales. And they told me that it was about 50% of the people that got the rebate that bought something, and 50% who didn't. So the 50% who didn't is basically almost pure profit, right? Once you get it set up, there's very little marginal cost in the QR code. And the other 50% are buying books that almost always cost more and still cover the cost, if not have some profit on the books, which you now sell much more of. And they're going to buy one book, they often buy another book and so forth. So it's
right. You buy it for one kid, you have to buy one for each kid.
Right.
That was my problem.
Exactly. It's one of my favorite examples in the world. And it gets back to Dave, you talked about Europe versus the US. And one of the things about European companies coming to the US is there already is this sort of nice feeling we have about European companies because it's foreign, because it's different, because they have these great accents, because you can't pronounce Printemp correctly, and so forth.
But if you can and you watch the YouTube video, then you feel cool.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, the opposite story here from department store world, Macy's, New York City, one of the most famous department stores in the world. People come from all over the world to see this department store. They've done none of this. Right. None of it. And in fact, I attended in the basement of Macy's during holiday season many years ago. I attended a Daybreaker morning rave, if you've heard of them. They're like a sober dance party where a bunch of tech bros get together and dance their faces off and then go into their tech bro offices and work. And interesting concept. I've been to a bunch of them. I think it's really fun and kind of amazing. But and I went to the Macy's one because I was like, what an interesting place to have a dance party. They did nothing to connect me to Macy's. I felt very connected to Daybreaker, but I had no relationship to Macy's other than I've now seen their basement Santaland. And there were so many opportunities in there to build a relationship with me through that experience where Daybreaker had actively brought me into their space. Might they have had a morning pop-up store where I could have gotten my Christmas gifts after dancing? That would have been convenient and helpful. Might they have given and fun. Yeah, shopping with all these sweaty strangers who were much younger and more attractive than me. Awesome. For my aspirational self who looks like them.
I think one of the things that,
but they didn't.
I think one of the things that you're kind of suggesting is that maybe the job, the role that retailers need to include is event manager. Like there
Mm-hmm.
needs to be somebody whose job it is to identify key events, stage them, uh, you know, figure out what the engagement is. When you're dealing with physical places, you need that role, and it's very, very different than somebody who's there to help you find merchandise,
Well,
right?
you think about even things like Museum of Natural History. They're famous, of course, for their sleepovers that bring people in to essentially camp as a family under the whale. And why wouldn't Macy's be doing that? It's a significant historical space. I want to do a scavenger hunt through there. I want to sleep in some strange space in it. Like people want to have experiences just in that space. But that's not what they're thinking about. They're thinking about windows and they're thinking about end
Renting.
caps. And it's just a very traditional approach and a parade.
Yep.
At least the natural history museums at least have the advantage of when you do sleep over there, everything comes to life at night,
Oh,
but not at Macy's. Oh wait,
I
that was
know.
a
Rude.
sorry.
Yeah, I think it comes to life in both in the movies. But well, this has been a really fun conversation. And I hope the Macy's team reaches out to us because we have thoughts. And I will, like you, continue to track Printemps and try to get myself over there ASAP so that we can share more pictures with you guys who are listening. Let us know which story you'd like for us to feature next by visiting us over at the Experience Strategist on Substack. Comment, share your thoughts, questions. Let's build on this together. Thanks for listening.